Greetings. Elder Blacklight, continuing on with the lost culture of the gods. Behind me you see the Ethiopians, the Cushites, the Nubians, and the Kemites. I'm going to put a picture of my mother and father and my grandmother, who was the mother of my mother. And I want you to notice my father. My father looking like these are his people. My grandmama got the features too. High cheekbone, narrow jaw. Now my mother, her face is slightly fatter, but she still got a high cheekbone. And that's me on the bottom. I don't know who to look like. I don't I'm just forming myself. But I was born in 1946, so I don't know how old I was right there. But you see my grandmother got her turban on. She was in the Nation of Islam. My mother probably just got out. I don't know, but she was also in the Nation. When she was carrying me, she was attending meetings. And then she joined approximately a year or two after I was born. I don't have a picture of my uncle. Maybe I could find one when I look through the scrapbook. But he the one that brought his mother, which is her, his sister, the youngest baby, she the baby of the family. And I had another aunt, uh, living in St. Louis, helped start the temple in St. Louis. And she used to be the seamstress and the tailor of the temple and sew clothes. Now I'm going to go into this video to illustrate further what I'm talking about. Seeing is believing, most of the time.
The untold, truth hiding, in plain sight. From the kingdom of Kush, to the today Ethiopia. One the largest ethnic group in East Africa today, they were existed as a community of people for thousands of years in East Africa. Available information clearly indicates that the land of Kush, Nubia, or the ancient Ethiopia, in Middle and Lower Nile, was the home of the Cushitic speakers. It's from there that they subsequently dispersed and became differentiated into separate linguistic and cultural groups. According to Marjorie Perrin, 1948 British historian and writer on African affairs, the emigrant Semites landed in a continent of which the northeast appears to have been inhabited by the eastern groups of Hamites, often called Cushites. The various Cushitic nations, inhabiting Northeast and East Africa today, are the result of this dispersion and differentiation. The Oromo form one of the main groups with all tradition and culture of Cushites, starting from Nubia, spreading southwards, and then east and west, occupying large part of the Horn of Africa today. Their strong physical features, unique culture, language, and other evidences unequivocally point to the fact that they are indigenous to this part of Africa. Many historians have clearly mentioned that the ancient Egypt land black KMT or Kemet was stolen from native African peoples, or the ancient Oromo ethnic group. The untold truth, hiding in plain sight, is that the land Egypt today was taken by brutal force and subterfuge by European and pale Arabs of that time.
So Egypt has a very long and an interesting history, but the Ottoman's land really is Egypt. Egypt is the Ottoman's land. Egypt was taken from ancient Ottomans. Even the linguistic evidence, because I was surprised too in doing some linguistic study. In fact, now I even want to learn Oromifa. That's why I want to learn Oromifa, to get it right, how they say it. I like to learn that because it's a melodical linguistic search.
There are several groups of people in East Africa very closely related to the Oromo today. For instance, the Afar and Somalis are very similar to Oromo in their appearance and culture. The fact that the Somali, Afar and Oromo languages share between 30% and 40% of their vocabulary could be an indication that these groups of people became differentiated very recently. Other Cushitic-speaking groups living in the same neighborhood, who are closely related to the Oromo, are Kanso, Sidama, Kembata, Duressa, Ago, Saho, Baja and many other groups. The Abyssinian history, about the arrival of the Oromo people in the 16th century in East Africa from outside, is a fabrication and denial of historical facts. It is a myth created by Abyssinian court historians and monks, sustained by their European supporters, and which the Ethiopian rulers used to lay claim on Oromo territory and justify their colonization over the Oromo people. However, several authorities and historic evidences have indicated that the Oromo were in fact in the northeastern part of the continent before the arrival of the Habasha. This short documentary is brought to you by Isaac Mo from Booltoon Media.
Now the brothers that made that last video, I'm assuming they were brothers, could have went to this woman here, Drusilla Dungy Houston, a black woman, published this book in 1926. But they preferred to go to the Caucasian, maybe because they think black people don't believe that a black woman is authentic enough. Now, we're going to go to Born Mastermind Allah to show the composition of the black man. We had this before the Caucasian walked the planet.
What this particular presentation is about, it's about how this environment, as we speak, is changing. Not only is it changing, but it's changing it's becoming less habitable for the European and more habitable for the original man, and we're going to go all into that. And before we go into that, we're going to go into the science of Asiatic. This is a word that has been misused. A lot of brothers call themselves the Asiatic black man. A lot of people don't really understand this term, and they have a problem when our great ancestors, such as the Messenger, such as Allah the Father, so even Noble Drew Ali, who taught that we were Asiatic. So you have brothers coming with whether or not we Asiatic, whether or not we African. When we go into the science of this word, we now will have a deep understanding of what the term Asiatic means and how it transcends all other titles, names, labels, and all of that. So we're going to go in right now.
All right, let's go.
So the science of Asiatic, carbon 7 and 14. We about to go in. First of all, that term Asiatic is a term that has its origins prior to the Kabbalah, but it can be found in the Kabbalistic scripts. So when we ask, what is the Kabbalah is, or what they say it is an esoteric method, discipline, and school of thought that originated in Judaism. But in reality, it's the esoteric knowledge that the original man gave the Europeans and Caucasians to civilize them from the hills and caves of Europe to put them on their square, and that's how they became Jews, Masons, etc., to be able to rule the world. That's the mathematics, the science, the astronomy that we gave them to put them on their square. Taught them how to cook their food, taught them how to eat the right foods, and this is what we gave to them to civilize them from the hills and caves of Europe when they was walking on all fours like savages, like beasts. And this is the information that they use to this day to hold over your head so that they can control the environment, control economics, control policy, and you have no idea what's going on because you're not in tune with your ancient scriptures and your ancient texts. Let's break this word down, Kabbalah. As you see in the word Kabbalah, you have the Ka, Ba, and Allah. The Ka in so-called Egyptian religion or our ancient Kemetic spiritual systems is a spiritual entity, an aspect of the individual believed to live within the body during life and to survive it after death. And we understand the only thing that's surviving that the physical body leaves is the electromagnetism, the light, which is known as the mind within the body. Then you have the Ba, also in so-called Egyptian religion or Kemetic spiritual systems, is the aspect of the soul represented as a human-headed bird.
Now, I'm sorry, and I don't want to cut your bill.
Go ahead.
But when you say so-called religious Ka in the Ba, I don't think we can say so-called because we know that that was the first call.
Well, let's swing it around.
Deal with the Ka and the Ba, that's the first call. That's where all the other religions come from.
Right. Well, when I'm saying,
you can't say so-called.
No, when I'm saying so-called,
yeah, brother.
When I'm saying so-called, see, the European have us think that, you know, all of our ancient spiritual systems and sciences was religion in the way that they give it to you today. When we never believed in mystery gods, we never believed in things outside of self. We always understood that we were connected to the all and that we were the gods that we were talking about in these scripts. So when I say so-called religion, I don't see it as a religion, and I'm certain the way that our ancestors threw it down was not about religion.
Yes, sir.
All right.
I ain't gonna cut your bill.
No doubt. You can add on anytime you need to. So the soul, right? We understand the soul phonetically is the same sound of the